What's up, dudes? How you doing? HW here. HW here. And I'm just hanging out in the studio, and picked up the old 335 and playing through a Kemper right now. It's the Silvertone 1483. And man, I've been like knee deep in Proxy. I've been like knee deep in making some packs and stuff and kind of jumping between all the units. And it's really made me realize something that I want to talk about. And the point of the video, and that's, you know, every year, you know, 24, 25, 26, you know, I see all these YouTubers making these videos, you know, what's the best modeler this year? What's the best modeler, you know, today? You know, what's the best modeler 2024, 2025, 2026? And I see guys like Leo Gibson, you know, doing these, you know, null test videos. And everyone wants to know, you know, when a new tech comes out, like the Line 6 proxy captures, you know, proxy clones, you know, what's the null test rating? What's the null test of Kemper 2.0, you know? And if you don't know, this null test thing, it operates under this assumption. I think the assumption's a little faulty if we think about what could make the test fail. And there's like an article out there written about this, you know, why you can't divide by 0. But basically, the null test goes like this: like if we take the original signal and we take a signal made from the capture or the clone, right? You put the same input signal in. If you take the clone and you flip the phase, right? If it's the exact same, it'll fully cancel out. So anything that doesn't get canceled out will show you the difference in the two signals, right? How well it copied the sound of the original amp. And the issue there is that if latency moves around, you will have also less cancellation. So you better have constant latency when you do this, or if latency changes, you can also have a bad test that way. So anyway, I don't think it's a number that should be treated like, you know, kind of like this is the gospel truth of how well something is. I think the real test is, you know, feel under fingers. And if you feel like it feels like the amp. Now, how close a capture or a clone feels to the amp, well, you're going to have played the amp, right? So if you're buying it from someone like Tone Junkie or Tone Shepherd or Signal Theory, Michael Britt, you know, Jason Sedites, whatever, all great guys, by the way. If they say, here's a plexi, right? Like I just did with a plexi pack, right? And I go, this is my 2 plexis, right? If you haven't played those amps, you really don't know how close they are to the amp itself. You really don't know if they've failed to capture the magic or failed to get the high end quite right. You know, you really don't know. I know because I have played the amp. And you know if you do your own amp, right? If you're very familiar with an amp, or you listen to the A/B tests, and then we do these A/B test things, and that's cool too. But at the end of the day, what I've really noticed, and what has completely changed my opinion, is doing a deluxe reverb or a plexi on Kemper 2.0, Quad Cortex, ToneX, NAMM, proxy clones. Doing all that and still having the feeling of going, hey, this actually sounds like my deluxe. It sounds how I mic'd it up. And when I go on any platform, it's like, that's my sound. That's the sound that I like with that amp. It's like very familiar to me. And so I'm sitting here going like, okay, I think this used to be a question of accuracy. And now I think the real thing is it's not, the accuracy of these units is not even something that I think comes into really the calculus of what's the best anymore. Because I think if today you ask me the question, what's the best modeler in 2026? I would say to you, or what's the best capture tech in 2026? I'd say to you, it doesn't matter. And the reason it doesn't matter is that everything is becoming so close to the amp that trying to rank them in terms of differences, it would be like trying to take all of the top selling automobiles in the United States, right? Like maybe, I don't know, the whatever's like, the Corolla. I don't know if these are the top selling, but take the Corolla and the like, is the Honda Civic and like, the Nissan Altima, like whatever's in that same class, right? It's like a people mover, cheaper car. It would be like trying to say, well, the Toyota's better because it has 1 mile better miles per gallon. And if that's the logic, no one should buy a Civic, no one should buy an Altima, no one should buy the, Ford, whatever car they're doing. You should only buy the Toyota Camry. And I don't think that's the only thing that matters. I think all the other features matter. And I think at the end of the day, that 1 mile per gallon difference is actually so small because all the cars are going to have 35 or 36, right? You're probably not going to buy one over the other and get any noticeable difference in gas spending. You're not. So it would seem like a weird way to rank it. And so you kind of got to take all the features together, I think. Because what I'm noticing is I've captured, my deluxe reverb and it's like free for everything and you can play it and it sounds so similar. It sounds like the same amp, same mic setup, same everything on all the platforms. And that's different than the models that are built in. See, when everything was modeling, it was like who had a better model, the Helix or the Quad Cortex or, the Boss stuff, right? And now it's like, if everything sounds like HW's Deluxe and I'm playing HW's Deluxe, then which one should I choose? Well, that answer really, I think, comes down to all the other things because what I notice when I jump between units, if I pull up my Deluxe that was captured on any of those units, it all sounds like my Deluxe, but it sounds different? The spring reverb now sounds more different on all the units than the capture does on all the different units. So now it's almost like the effects are maybe an even more important role than they were before. You know what makes the sound different? The compressor on the Kemper, which I very much like and have gotten used to over the years, is kind of a generic, it's their own compressor. They just made a compressor that I think they felt worked well for guitar by looking at other compressors. So it's not an LA2A, it's not a 1073, it's not a Dynacomp clone. It's just a compressor. But when I go on the Helix, I have to go, well, which compressor do I want to use, right? And so for me, I tend to use the Dynacomp clone, but I tend to like it by pulling down the mix. And when you do that, it becomes very un-Dynacomp, right? It becomes like a much more boutique thing because you're not locked into that squeezy sound that it gives you. You now get the squeezy sound, but you blend in the other part, and now it's like, okay, I can either get it real squeezy or not squeezy. It feels more like a higher end pro thing, and that's actually what I really like about it. The spring reverbs on the unit, like I said, are very different. The reverbs are very different. One of the really smart things that I think went really under the radar, and I got to give Doug and the whole team at Neural props for this, is as soon as Proxy was announced at launch back, in whenever it was, August, September, I can't remember, June, July of last year, and they said they're going to come out at the end of the year. I'm sure Neural got to work because what we noticed was at NAMM when they told us Proxy clones would be out before the end of March. As soon as those dropped, well, QC had just dropped their big reverb update. And what do people say is the biggest weakness of the Helix family? I'm not saying the reverbs are bad. I think they're fine. I think Brian from Worship Tutorial Signal Theory has some videos on how to make them sound their best. And I think they sound fine. I think they sound great. But in general, there are these kind of things people hold to. Who has the best effects? Fractal. Who has, you know, and I say that in so much, you might prefer something else, but if someone said, I think Fractal has the best effects, no one would ever say you're out of your mind. It's like, in general, we all sort of go, yeah, a lot of people feel that way. Fractal has the best effects. I mean, you know, maybe that's a deciding factor for you, or maybe you're completely happy on whatever other unit you're using. But the Helix, if I've heard any complaints, it's not in the number of models. It's not in the number of available models. It's not in the ease of use. Those are all things the Helix excels at, right? And now at the Stadium, I think it's better. I had a problem with some of the amp models, and I had heard people say the reverb and the amp models are the weakest point in the Helix. What you get is, you know, these huge number of tones, easy to use, you know, a big library, active user base. It's kind of, you know, in a lot of ways was the standard of modelers. I think in some way affordable. But my complaint was some of the amp models I didn't think were as good as some of the other ones. I really liked the Plexi. I really liked, you know, the Princeton. I really liked, you know, the Matchless stuff, you know. And then I would play the Deluxe and I'd go, this kind of sucks, you know. And then the Agora stuff comes out with Stadium, and there's videos on this channel of me praising it because I go, wow, this sounds great. And the reason I was saying it sounded so great was when I put my R's in with that, it's kind of sounded better than my real Deluxe mic'd up the same way I made those IRs. So all of a sudden I go, holy cow, not only does this really accurately feel like an amp, but damn, they got a good Deluxe. Because even though I'm shooting it through my Deluxe and my speaker, you know, from that Deluxe with the mics positioned, when I have an IR that's like the same mic and cab, the model actually I think sounded even almost better than my Deluxe. Now I went back and redid the Deluxe, actually in part because of that. Because I was like, dang, I like certain things about this. I like that it's full in the low end, but still has like a bell-like quality in the high. And it made me kind of look at what I was doing, how I was setting it up and stuff. It also made me switch out a couple preamp tubes, which I think really helped. But back to the point. Today, if you ask me, you know, which capture tech is the best, you know, I'll say, well, I guess you could go watch Leo Gibson's video and you can make an assessment like that. And I think in a way that's like asking, you know, which is the fastest car? Which gets more miles per gallon? And that's a very valuable question if some of the units only get 5 miles per gallon or 10 miles per gallon, and some get 20, right? Then it's a very important question. But I think what we're dealing with at some point now is everything is so accurate that when I capture my amp, it feels like my amp in that unit's ecosystem of effects, of switching, in that unit's workflow, in that unit's strengths and weaknesses. And so, yeah, if we're talking about, well, this car gets 10 and this car gets 20, that will probably make a decision for you. If we're talking about this car's faster and that one's slower, well, how fast and how slow? Well, that one only goes 70 miles per hour and this one goes 120. Well, that's enough for me to make a decision because I want to be able to pass people on the freeway. So I might need to go 80, right? I might need to go 85. I might need to go 80 or 85 to keep up with traffic in some places, right? But if we're saying, well, that one will probably top out at 105 if you're lucky, and that one can go 130 no problem, who cares? If they can if both cars can go about 85, 90, you're not going to have a problem passing anyone on the freeway. So, and I'm not really going to go faster than that. I'm not routinely driving above 100. But I might have to pass somebody, you know, and then go back down to 75, 80, wherever I'm cruising, 65, wherever I am, right? And so this is really where I think we are, where I think the question has moved. The question has evolved. It's no longer, you know, who has the best capture tech, and it's now up to you to say, what unit do I want to be on? I know a lot of guitar players here in Nashville that still choose the Kemper. I was just sitting in a room with a bunch of guys who are way above my pay grade and are super highly recorded guys. And I'm not going to name drop because I don't know them well enough that I would feel comfortable doing that. But I had a friend who invited me over, and I was friends with some of the guys there, but some of the guys I was meeting for the first time. And like I said, I've known some of them, but I'm not going to name drop them. Anyway, they were talking about gear. And I was asking them some questions and just sitting back and listening, right? And they kind of knew what I did. And so I'm asking them about some stuff. So what's your main code? So you use the ODR1, right? Yeah. What do you like about it? And then what do you use into it, right? You use the Distortion, right? You use the M9, right? You do this, you do that, right? Because I watch, and I watch what people do. And so I know enough to have like an informed question, you know what I'm saying? But I want to hear what they're going to say. I was surprised how many of them have used modelers and are using modelers for some things. They're all amp guys. But how many of them were like, oh yeah, I use ToneX. Oh yeah, I use that. I still use the Kemper, right? And I go, but you use it with your pedal board too, right? So what do you program? Oh, I just program in like a Princeton or a this or that. Oh, right. You know, oh yeah, oh no, I already did my amps for ToneX, so sometimes I use that if I need to. But, you know, I always like the real thing. I just real simple do it like, okay, interesting, you know? Just get people talking, you'll learn a lot. And so I was listening to these guys, and what struck me was, you know, they chose the things they chose a lot of times because it was easy to use, not necessarily the best. I've noticed this about professional musicians, especially studio guys. They rarely choose the latest and greatest. They almost always choose the tried and true. And if there's something that has a trick, even just one that they can use, it lands it there. And it's a trick that gets used. And unless something comes along and does it way better, that thing's staying. Because for them, I notice it's not about having every trick in the book. It's about, I got to be able to do like 7 to 10 tricks. And that's all. That's my whole world. That's my career, right? It's not about 30 capabilities. It's about, I got to be able to get like 3 main tones. And then people might ask me occasionally for these other 3 things. And then I got a secret 1 or 2 things. And that's all their sounds. Like that's it, right? Like that's the absolute maximum that they can pull up on their board. There's 3 that pay the bills, 3 that come up every now and then that they're kind of like ready for, and 1 or 2 that they like have used and someone loved and they sometimes are able to throw it in. And after that, there's nothing. No one's ever asking them for anything else, right? Nothing else gets, everything else is esoteric and, you know, silly and not really good. No one's paying you for it. And I notice a lot of times what they prioritize is the tactile nature of pedals. They don't want to menu dive. A lot of them choose the Kemper because they can look and see knobs and see dials. They don't have to go in, and they find that things can't really be set without them noticing. Another thing I see is a lot of guys still on the older Line 6 stuff because it's easy to pull up, the tactile knob thing again. A lot of guys too, I notice, ToneX and ToneX 1. Why? Because they don't want 30 sounds. They just want that ToneX 1 to go to one sound and then the other. One sound and the other. I got my Bassman, I got my Marshall. That's all I need, right? I got my, I got my Marshall, I got my Matchless. That's it. Or I got my Matchless Clean and my Matchless Dirty. That's all they're doing. And that sort of gets to this again, where it's like, not one of them asked, hey, HW, which is the absolute most accurate? They all had taken a digital device, used it on a gig, they liked it, it was great, it worked with their pedal board, it went, done, right? Done. It works. And so that's like kind of what I notice, one, brings contentment to you as a player when you get something that works instead of chasing the next best thing. But 2, just like, it didn't seem like any of them cared if one was a little more accurate than the other because it did the job. And I think if you ask them, hey, does your M9 sound as good as a deluxe Memory Man? As a real tape machine? The answer would be no. But this sounds good. Right? Like, no, but this sounds good. And when they play me the track and I'm making my chart and I got to play the thing, I got to come up with parts, and no one's going to be able to hear whether it's the real Memory Man or not. No one's going to be able to hear whether it's the real amp or not. Because it's like close enough. And I hate to say that, close enough. But I think the reality is we're kind of like, as guitar players, just sitting in a spot right now where, yes, there's something magical about an amp. Just like there's something magical about a vintage guitar. And this is not one. This is a custom shop 335, right? From like a 64 model custom shop 335 from Nashville. And it sounds great. And it's not cheap. I paid $4,000 for this thing. And I thought that was a good deal. I got it used from a guy who's a great player in town. And I sold a much more expensive guitar. I sold a vintage guitar. I sold my 67 Trini Lopez to a buddy. And I got this, and I'm really enjoying it. And my honest opinion about this guitar is it as magical as a vintage one? No, I don't think so. Could I buy a real 64 and just absolutely fall in love and gush over it and make a million YouTubes about it? Probably. Is this a great guitar? Yes. Does it work? Yes. Is the thing holding me back on this guitar the guitar or myself? No, it's me. I got miles and miles and miles to go as a player before this thing is holding me back. It's good enough. It's more than good enough. It's actually excellent. And I think really that's where we are. These platforms are excellent. They're touch sensitive. They're responsive. We now are in a place where I think it's a better question to ask yourself: whose delays do I like better? Whose reverbs do I like better? Whose workflow do I like better? Who has maybe parameters under the hood that I like better? And I could make the case for all the units. Which form factor do I like better? Which fits on my pedal board better? I think those are better questions, honestly, at this point. And that is lame. I understand it's lame. I understand it's lame to go, which is the best modeler of 2026? Which is the best capture tech of 2026? Oh, well, what are you doing with it? I was going to put it on my pedal board. Go ToneX. Really? Why? Well, it's a small pedal and it'll cost you $179. What? That's your answer? But what's the best? Nah, bro, that's the answer. Like you could pay more. I mean, go ahead and get a Kemper 2.0. Is the amp sound going to be better? I'm not going to say that. But you'll have delays, verbs, you'll be able to run 4 effects in front, 4 effects after, you'll be able to do morphing, all that. Well, but I don't need those things. Well then, maybe spend $179 on the ToneX One. I mean, that is kind of what it comes down to here. Now, I'm not going to say that's true of modeling, but I think it's true of the big capture tech units right now. Do I think they're all perfect? No. Do I think any of them are perfect? Probably not. I mean, technically, I don't know that any of them are perfect, but they might as well be perfect. They might as well be perfect in the same way that these PAF clones may as well be completely 100% accurate PAF clones. I don't own other PAF clones. I can't hear the difference between a real PAF and this one because I don't own one. And you don't own all of the amps that are on ToneX and everything. So if there is some minuscule small difference, what the heck does it matter if you don't know about it, right? I might hear something slightly different in my real deluxe than this, and I'm not even sure it's better because once I change a little EQ because I want to cut through the band a little better, or because I pulled out a brighter guitar and I turned the treble down, once the sound man, whether it's recording or live or whatever, puts a little compressor on my channel, once he takes a little top end down, once he shelves under 100 up, who's to say that the model wasn't already better at doing something that someone else is going to come do to the sound? I don't know. I really don't. But That's where it sits to me. And I think I might be the first person to say this. I don't think it matters. Go buy whatever capture tech unit you want. After doing the line 6, I've just really realized every unit is there right now. Every unit is there. And if you want to be kind of a, honestly, like a geek on the internet and like run a bunch of null test stuff, look, I get people are interested in that. But I'm just saying, it's a geeky thing to do in the same way that it's a geeky to like compare performance of the latest NVIDIA RTX card, right? A lot of us just want to know, does it run Call of Duty like well and in 4K? And the answer is like, yes, right? But then you start to get into the geeky stuff. It's like, if you run Call of Duty and blah, 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 are there any drop frames and can you do it with this setting and this set? Then you start to get a more established answer. But that's like, a lot of us just want to play a game on a Saturday and have fun with our kids or our friends or whatever. And it's good enough. You know what I mean? It's like the Xbox, good enough. I didn't need to buy a $3,000 PC to run this game. It's like the Xbox was fine. The PlayStation was fine. It's all fine. It's all good enough. And, as enthusiasts, is that an answer we're going to accept? No. So you're going to go buy the real amp, and you're going to buy some models of it, and you're going to buy this, and you're going to buy that, and you're going to buy too much stuff because we're enthusiasts and that's what we do. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make one difference in how well you play, how well you can do the gig, how well that record that you're trying to record sounds. It's not going to make a difference. It's there on everything. The limiting thing is probably your skill and your knowledge more than the device itself. And I think that's really where we are today. It does not matter.